Late nights, I feel my heartbeat racing slow in candlelight. Words unspoken, feelings hidden, shadows dance until the morning light. When you say you need me, I'm holding on tight. All these doubts inside me fading out of sight. In this moment, nothing else feels right. You're probably right, yeah, you're probably right.
Oh boy, here we go. How you doing, y'all? This is MCM, and you're listening to You're Probably Right, episode called No Strings Attached. You're like, what does that mean? Are there ever no strings attached to situations? Let's get into it. Remember, this podcast, like all my other podcast episodes, are for entertainment purposes only. So if it makes you laugh, cool. If it makes you cry, I'm sorry. If it makes you indifferent, it is what it is. All right, here we're going to go. Straight up, 279 episodes. It's crazy. We already got here. 20 more to 300. That's wild. All right. When people hear no strings attached, they picture freedom, adventure, a little risk without responsibility. But in psychology, they say that same phrase describes something much, much, much heavier. A way of loving that stays 1 foot out the door even while the body is all in. I've seen it. I've lived it. And maybe you have too. You meet someone who's charming, grounded, funny, even caring. They text back. They touch your hand. They say all the right things. But the moment the emotional weather changes, all of a sudden they drift. Is that you? Not a dramatic storm, just a quiet fog. And you start wondering, did I just imagine what we had, what we did, where we were? Because it's a little bit strange. That rhythm. Pull close, cool down, vanish, resurface. Yeah, that rhythm. Pull close, cool down, vanish, resurface is the heartbeat of a dismissive-avoidant attachment style. They're the I'm fine people. The sorry I fell asleep people. The ones who hold your face like they mean it, then change the topic when you ask what they're feeling. You walk in, I would like to talk about this situation that happened yesterday. And they'll say, hey, look, the sky's blue. And there's a rubber ducky over there on the floor. Yeah. Why no strings attached? Works as a metaphor. Pop culture romanticizes this idea. Two people keeping things casual, physical, whatever, calling it modern, but underneath the movie montage is a psychological blueprint. The dismissive avoidance mind searches for connection without surrender, of course. It isn't that they don't want closeness. They just don't know how to feel safe inside of it. Freedom is their oxygen, control their comfort zone. The moment emotions get messy, they pull the ripcord. This pattern doesn't appear out of nowhere, though. Usually, there was a time, a childhood, early adolescence, early relationships in adulthood maybe, when needing someone wasn't safe. Crying didn't bring comfort. It brought silence or criticism. So the brain learned, need less and you'll hurt less. Fast forward to actual adulthood, and that lesson becomes muscle memory. Love feels good until it asks for reciprocity. Then the alarm rings. They're not villains. They're self-protective architects. Their blueprint says, if I control distance, I can't be left. If I stay polite, I can't be blamed. If I touch but don't talk, I can feel safe. That's why their affection often looks right but feels off. They'll brush your arm, say sorry for disappearing, send a meme, send a message that reminds them of you, just enough to keep the line alive without committing to the conversation on it. If you've ever been on the receiving end, you know the confusion. It's like getting warmth through glass. You sense connection, but you can't quite touch it, like visiting somebody in jail. You see them, you care about them, but you can't touch them. You start replaying every message, every gesture, trying to decode meaning that was probably never conscious. For the avoidant, that same gray zone feels safe. It's controlled intimacy. They can show up when it suits them and disappear when it feels too heavy. They crave closeness, but fear being depended on. They want to matter, but not to be responsible for mattering. Here's the cruel trick of perception, though. When a secure or anxious partner finally says, I can't do this anymore, the avoidant looks relieved. Huh? That's right, they look relieved. They say things like, I get it, or I can respect that, or I hope you find what you're looking for. And you think, wow, they really didn't care. But underneath their body is doing something different. It's releasing tension, not indifference. They've trained their nervous system to equate peace with distance. But what's the real cost? The tragedy of this blueprint is loneliness. Even when they appear content, they're living on emotional ration packs. Connection exists only in controlled doses. A hug here, a night together there, then a retreat, and over time, both people starve a little. The partner starves for closeness, the avoidant starves for safety. Both end up misunderstood and possibly miserable. In the next section, we'll peel back the everyday signs of this distance, the sorry texts, the breadcrumbs, the friendly touches, the power of calm goodbyes, and why the avoidance body often tells more truth than their words. We'll also talk about how no strings attached relationships secretly tangle both sides in invisible threads. Attention, validation, and of course, control. Check it out. We've talked about the dismissive-avoidant, what it is really. What is that predicament that they find themselves in? How they see closeness as both hunger and hazard. Now let's talk or walk through how that shows up in everyday world or regular life. In texts, touches, tone, and timing. The sorry reflex. If you've ever dated or worked with a dismissive avoidant, you already know the national anthem of their language. Sorry. Sorry I fell asleep. Sorry I was busy. Sorry I forgot to reply. Those words aren't actual apologies. Yeah, really. They're temperature control. They keep peace without owning emotion. Each sorry means please don't be upset. I'm safe again. It's their nervous system talking not their conscience. In psychology, we call that micro repair. Quick patch on a crack that will reopen later. It soothes you just enough to keep the conversation civil, and for them, keeps closeness from escalating into a deeper talk. Don't believe me? Okay, so let's just say that you've been in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant. Say you have them on text. You've texted back and forth for no less than 3 months, 5 months, a year, or more. Now go into your search on your messages and type the word sorry and see how many times that person pops up. Just saying. Right. Didn't think about that, did you? Maybe you did. The polite re-entry. The polite re-entry, yes. When they've gone silent and then they resurface, they rarely say, I missed you. Instead, they send a meme, a song link, or something perfectly neutral, just some random thing so that they can start. And saw this, they'll say, I saw this and I thought of you. Or just ask you some random question that you almost feel obligated to answer, although it has nothing to do with anything, really. That's breadcrumb communication, a safe way to check whether the door is still open without risking rejection. The body language version is a light shoulder tap, a quick smile in the hallway, or the classic, how have you been? That hides more curiosity than they'll admit. They test the perimeter, not the heart. The touch that's not about you. If you are a securely attached individual or anxious attached, these touches will mess with your head. Check it out. This is where it gets confusing. You see the same person who ghosted your messages, who brushes your arm when you pass, or stands just a little bit too close while talking, or puts their hand on your waist as they pass by, maybe repeatedly. For most people, touch equals affection. For them, in most cases, it equals regulation. They're reestablishing comfort through control. In other words, they're like saying, touch on the shoulder, see, we're fine. Touch on the wrist, see, we're okay. We're still good there. The touch is a pressure valve. It reassures them they can be near you without getting pulled into emotional territory. If you react warmly, they feel competent. If you ignore it, check it out, they feel safe. Either way, they win their balance back. Dismissive avoidants hide behind etiquette. It's how they keep intimacy wrapped in civility. They'll bring coffee, hold the door open, compliment your outfit. Acts that look like care, but feel strangely hollow. That's because politeness is their armor. As long as they behave properly, no one can accuse them of being cold. It's emotional camouflage. Here's the hard truth. When a dismissive avoidant starts receiving gifts, help, or emotional labor, they feel debt. To escape that debt, they may give something back that looks like intimacy, maybe sex, flirtation, a long talk at midnight. It's not manipulation, in the cartoon sense anyway. It's balance management. They can't stand owing affection. They repay it with the currency they control. If you've ever wondered why things get physically warm right after you do something generous, that's why. It's their way of keeping emotional books on everything and even. The no strings fantasy for an avoidant, casual relationships are paradise at first. Freedom, pleasure, no demands. But sooner or later, one of two things happen. The partner catches feelings, and the avoidant retreats. The avoidant catches feelings and panics. Think about it. Sometimes this doesn't really happen perfectly because sometimes there's kids involved. Marriage maybe because of kids, right? When you finally let go, here's the paradox. They don't chase when you plead. They chase when you release. A calm, short goodbye unsettles them more than an emotional monologue. You reclaim autonomy, the one thing they thought they owned. They won't show panic, they'll show curiosity. They text at odd hours, ask casual questions, maybe touch your arm in passing again. That's not reconciliation, it's control checking back in. Inside the silent mind. If you could sit inside their thoughts during these moments, it might sound like this. They're okay. They didn't need me. Did I matter at all? Maybe I should reach out just to make sure we're cool. That just to make sure we're cool line is the avoidance mantra. Just want to make sure everything's okay. It keeps guilt low and connection optional. How they experience seeing you again. Picture this. You see each other at work, at church, maybe the gym. You nod, maybe exchange a line or two. For you, it's awkward. For them, it's data collection. They watch your face, your tone, your posture. They're checking whether the emotional weather is still safe. If you seem calm and detached, they relax. If you seem wounded, they pull back. They calibrate your energy, not your words. They're watching you. That's why the same person who won't check your social media might still find excuses to brush by you in the hallway. It's contact under plausible deniability. They get a pulse of familiarity without breaking their internal rule against need. And why does this behavior persist? Well, even after they've moved on, a dismissive avoidance body remembers how you made them feel regulated. Not loved, but balanced. Your presence equals stability. So the touches, the jokes, and polite exchanges continue long after the relationship ends. They're not plotting, they're maintaining homeostasis. Or homeostasis, I should say, sorry. Homeostasis. It's the emotional version of checking the thermostat. And what is the hidden cost to them anyway? Here's what they rarely admit. Living this way keeps them from ever feeling the full pleasure of security. They get moments of relief, but not peace. Their relationships stay hollow by design. So loss always feels smaller, but so does joy. The avoidance brain trades depth for control. It's a decent bargain for survival, a terrible one for thriving, though. And what's the hidden cost to you? Well, if you love someone like this, you start mirroring their patterns. You ration affection, you start getting cheap with it. You start apologizing for wanting things that are normal to want. Over time, you become a softer version of them. Half present, half numb. That's the real danger. Not heartbreak, but erosion. Ugh. You lose the ability to trust your own warmth. And why we need to understand this? Well, the goal isn't to villainize dismissive avoidant people. It's to decode them. Understanding doesn't mean excusing. It means you stop taking their distance personally. It's just them. You start seeing the wound behind the wall. They don't need punishment, although many of you probably would like to punish them. They need self-awareness. But that part, that work, that's all up to them. You can't love someone out of avoidance. You can only love yourself back into security. Thirdly, we'll talk about what partners can actually do with their knowledge or with this knowledge. How to walk away with compassion instead of bitterness, and why no strings attached always leaves one thread you can't cut. The need to feel seen. So we've peeled off the layers of dismissive avoidance pattern. The cool surface, the hidden fears, the small acts that say, I'm close, but not too close. Now it's time to bring it home. What do you actually do when you recognize this dynamic in your life or in yourself? Understanding without chasing. The first impulse when you finally get someone's avoidance is to fix it, to speak their language, to prove you're safe. But awareness isn't an invitation to rescue. It's a signal to stop running after what doesn't run after you. When you understand that distance is their comfort zone, you can stop mistaking it for punishment. You can say, this isn't about me. That sentence alone is freedom. It's just not about you. So what do secure people do differently? A secure person doesn't chase, doesn't freeze, doesn't beg. They name what they need and act accordingly. They might say, I care about you, but this level of distance doesn't work for me. And then they hold that boundary. And that quiet steadiness, no drama, no protest, is often the only language an avoidant truly respects. They hear self-control, they feel safety. Sometimes that's the moment they realize that, or what, they've lost. Why walking away works. When you pull back calmly, you remove the chase dynamic. You stop giving them control over the thermostat. Avoidants aren't motivated by loss itself. They're jolted by silence that feels final. That's why the short, neutral goodbye text hits harder than the emotional one. Doesn't make any sense, does it? It mirrors their own detachment, but with integrity. It tells them, you don't own my peace anymore. The truth is, sometimes the most powerful message isn't a message at all. It's silence. Silence unsettles people who manage connection through control. For the dismissive avoidant, quiet isn't rejection at all. It's peace. But when that peace no longer includes them, it shifts. They start to feel the absence that they wanted, I guess. And that's when the realization begins, not through words, but through the echo of your absence. Silence done calmly is not punishment. It's closure at the nervous system level. Now, if you're an avoidant, if you're listening and realizing this sounds like you, it's not an accusation, although most of this probably sounded like it. But it's not. It's an opening. Avoidance is self-protection dressed in independence. It keeps you safe, but it also keeps you small. You learned early that vulnerability meant danger, and you built a brilliant defense system. But every wall blocks sunlight as well as storms. You can't start with small risks, answering instead of deflecting. Or you can start with small risks, answering instead of deflecting, changing the subject or doing all the little magic tricks you do to try to change the subject and turn things around and keep the other person off kilter. Holding eye contact when emotions rise. Yeah. Letting someone see you hesitate instead of turning away. That's what healing looks like. Not instant closeness, just slower retreat. And the partner left behind. If you've loved someone like this, you probably feel like you were both too much and never enough. That's the signature burn of the avoidant dynamic. You were asked to be patient, understanding, independent, until they needed you again, then warm, forgiving, and open. You played every role, and it still wasn't safe. The truth is, you can't earn closeness from someone who fears it. All you can do is embody the steadiness they couldn't offer. That steadiness is what will attract peace next time. Compassion without consent, or contact, I should say. You don't have to hate them to heal. You can wish them well, even smile when you cross paths. That doesn't reopen the door, though. It just clears the hallway. Compassion isn't weakness. It's closure without bitterness. It's saying, I understand why you built the wall, but I don't need to live behind it. The invisible string. Here's the final truth. No relationship is truly no strings attached. There is always a thread, sometimes fine as a spider web, sometimes heavy as a rope. The thread is memory, experience. It's either it happened or it didn't. I know sometimes you scroll through your text saying, like, did we really talk about these things? Did we certainly talk this way? Everything's so weird now. Experience. A mark on the nervous system that says, I connected once. You can't erase that. And you don't need to. You just stop tugging on it. You let it hang there as proof that you're capable of connection, even if the other person couldn't sustain it. If you take anything from this episode, let it be this. Avoidance isn't strength, and need isn't weakness. There are two sides of the same fear. The fear of being seen and then losing what you saw, losing what saw you. The cure isn't to stop needing people. It's to learn how to need safely. To find the ones who don't panic when you're close and who don't disappear when you're honest. You can love someone avoidant and still choose yourself. You can understand their silence and still speak your truth. And you can walk away, not as punishment, but as proof that your love deserved to be met halfway. Anyhow, y'all, I am MCM. Thanks for listening to You're Probably Right. Until next time, stay steady, stay kind, and keep your strings attached to something real. All right, y'all. Take care. Hey, come check out You're Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 dogs. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while, understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.